Greetings, welcome, and thanks so much for tuning in. It's Christian of Standing Stones Healing, and I just want to talk a little bit about this week's episode of the Build Your Reiki Business podcast, because this week's episode is about values in our Reiki business. It's not something that we think of very often about our Reiki business, but indeed it is very important to our Reiki business. And so in this week's episode, I talk about the importance of values in our Reiki business and of aligning our Reiki business with our own personal values. This is really important. Now you can see I just had a kitty cross my path. My kitties, I value them. Sometimes more than others. And I'll talk about them actually in just one moment. But in this week's episode, I talk about the experience that I had back in 2017. And in 2017, on my Reiki business journey, I was considering purchasing a shop, a crystal shop, a metaphysical shop, a new age shop, whatever you want to call it. I was going to buy one of those. And I was in talks with the owner. I was in talks with the commercial real estate company that owned the building where the shop was housed at that time. And it was the kind of thing that I was really considering moving forward with this business purchase. I had the capital to make the purchase. I didn't need a loan. I was interested in owning a retail business at that time, and had actually even been talking about it with a potential business partner. We had actually looked at a couple of places, and I was considering purchasing this space outright on my own. But I ultimately decided not to make that purchase. I ultimately decided not to buy that business. Now, there were a few things about the purchase that just weren't the right fit for me. Some of the inventory was not the kind of inventory that I would have wanted to sell in the business. I probably would have changed the business name. I very well probably at some point even would have relocated to another spot, another building. But despite all of that, the real reason that I didn't purchase the business was that when I reflected on it and when I really thought about it, I realized that it was not the right fit for me. You see, one of my personal values is freedom. And if I were to purchase that retail shop, I felt that I was going to lose some of my freedom. And so I was going to have to manage a retail space, have to have retail space hours, have to open the shop and be there every time it was open, or at least at the beginning for sure. And so I ultimately decided that it wasn't the right fit for me because of that desire for freedom, that value of freedom. And I will tell you that any time that we have a conflict with our core values, we're going to have conflict and challenge. So what that means is that if I had gone through with the purchase and purchased the business, there would have been a conflict. I would have had a conflict. I would have had challenges simply because I would have had challenges with that setup and with wanting to have a business while at the same time wanting to have my freedom. So at once I wanted that retail space, but at the same time I wanted my freedom. And so, anytime we have a conflict with our core values, when we are trying to move our business forward, we're going to have challenges with moving forward. Now, you saw my kitty. She's a very sweet, blessed kitty. I love her very much. She's actually really happy to see me. I was away for a couple of days, so she's very happy that I am home. And I love my kitty. I brought her in as a stray about almost a year ago now, if you can believe that. That's wild. But I brought her in as a stray and her two kittens. And like I mentioned, freedom is one of my values. Well, of course, as you know, if you have an animal companion, they have a way of taking up a lot of your time, and they have a way of kind of stifling your freedom. And so, what that means is that anytime I want to go away, I got to make sure that I got someone to watch them and feed them, check in on them. And so, that has been a real conflict for me over the last year. That has been a real challenge for me over the last year. And I love them very dearly, but having them in my life has conflicted with that important value of freedom. So, what does this all mean? This all means that when we are building our Reiki business, it's very important for us to make sure that we are building our Reiki business in alignment with our values, that we are building a Reiki business, that we are starting a Reiki business, that the business model aligns with our values, and that as we build our business, we continue to align with our core values. This is very important. Otherwise, we're setting ourselves up for challenges. And so, you can learn more about the importance of our values in our Reiki business at standingstoneshealing.com/podcast for this week's episode of the Build Your Reiki Business podcast. And yes, indeed, I'll drop the link down below to the direct YouTube video so you can watch it straight away. So no matter what your values are, I'm sending lots of blessings and best wishes to your Reiki business values. Thank you very much.